So will you be responsible for your wife's student loans in your divorce? So I'm attorney Brent Boyer from Adam, and this question comes up from time to time: student loans and debts, and how all this works when you're getting divorced. So, pretty typical scenario: you're getting divorced, and your wife has student loans, or maybe you have student loans, and you want to know how this is going to work. Are you going to be responsible for these loans, or how is this going to be worked out? What do you do with assets, liabilities? How do you split things up? How do you deal with these things? So, and first of all, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get new content as it comes. We put out at least one new video every week. So hopefully those things will help you. We like to do frequently asked questions, so like this one. So the way you're looking at things in a divorce, assuming you've been married long enough that things are going to get split up more or less equally, meaning more of a long-term marriage, something more than 15 years, you're looking at dividing up assets, probably half and half. You're going to get half the house, half the value of the house. You're going to get half the retirement, half the savings, whatever there might be. And then this question of debts comes up. So what's going to go on with credit card debt and loans, car loans, student loans, whatever else might be out there. So you want to figure that out. So the analysis on that, first of all, is looking at whose name is on the loan. So a good thing about student loans, they're typically just in one person's name. So if your wife has student loans, that's going to mean it's your wife's name on those loans only. Your name's not on it. No one can ever sue you for those loans. So there's always a two-part analysis with a divorce case when you're looking at debt. We're looking at, number one, whose name is on it, right? That's the first thing. And with student loans, it's going to be in one person's name. So with your wife's student loans and this question of whether you would have to pay those or whether you're somehow responsible, well, we know that the student loan company can never sue you for those debts. Just because you're married doesn't mean that you have any liability when it comes to those debts. So that's the first question. So then the second question is, what's going to go on with the debts in the divorce case? It's possible to allocate debt or to split up debt, or to say, you used this Visa card for expenses that were bought together, or things that were bought during the marriage, even if it wasn't for things that were together. And so now that we're getting divorced, this Visa through Target might be in one person's name, but it would be possible that you might have to pay part of it, or you might have to pay all of it, or depending on what the agreement is and depending on what's going to make sense. So the good thing with student loans is you're going to find that you're not going to be having to pay your wife's student loans. Her student loans are in her name only. They were for her use. There's no way to say, we bought this couch and it's on the student loan. I mean, really, that's usually not the case. It's for education purposes, and people primarily use the money for that. And then it's pretty much understood at the time of a divorce, your wife's student loans are going to be her expense, or something that she's going to have to deal with. They're her problem. And then if you have your own student loans, same thing. You really can expect that you're going to be paying your own student loans. You're not normally going to see a situation where you got to pay part of your wife's student loans. Now, she may ask, and there's certainly some law to support this idea that you could be responsible for it in a divorce agreement. But most of the time, people can agree, my student loans are my student loans, my wife's student loans are her student loans, and there's no liability on the part of the other person to pay those kind of things. So that helps. With other debt, it can be a totally different story. You could end up having to pay part of the credit card debt, even if you didn't do any of the spending, even if it wasn't items for you, even if, any of those things. Assets and debts, as they sit there when you're dividing up a divorce case, they need to be dealt with, they need to be divided, and it's not that simple to just say, my name's on it or my name's not on it. Even in a shorter term marriage, you could end up responsible for credit card debt or other unsecured debts, or even car loans, mortgages, your joint names on them, and you end up kind of stuck with them in a divorce and you're trying to figure out what to do. But with student loans, you could expect that they're going to be in one person's name only, and they're basically widely agreed that that's going to mean it's the responsibility of one person. So your wife's student loans are in all likelihood going to remain her student loans in your divorce case. You divide things up really as almost as if those don't exist. If you have a house and you're splitting the house, you each get half the equity in the divorce. You got to figure that out. Houses, there's usually three options. You sell it, or you keep it, or your wife could keep it. Those are usually your three options. And those go on really kind of independent of whether there is a student loan sitting out there. Now, the student loan may interfere with your wife qualifying to get a mortgage and do a refinance or whatever, but it's not going to become your problem where you're expected somehow to pay the student loan in the divorce case. That's typically not going to be the deal. So That's what I would expect on that. And then debts, same thing. You can have credit card debts. Credit cards could be in your name only, it could be in wife's name only, or some of them might be joint. Joint meaning both names, or you're an authorized user on her account, which is really the same thing as joint names. And then those debts need to be divided. And like we're saying here today, you could have a Visa card that's in your wife's name only. She's the one that did all the spending, and there's $4,000 sitting on it at the time of the divorce that isn't being paid off monthly. You could still be expected to pay part of that, or maybe even more than half, depending on how the agreement is. But a student loan is going to be different. Money sitting on a student loan is going to be just in your wife's name, and you really should expect that you would not be responsible to pay any of that. So I hope that helps. We try to answer divorce, family law related questions here weekly. If you have any questions, of course, please post one in the comment, or contact us wherever you look for divorce attorneys. We're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, wherever it is. We have a website. Whatever it is you need from us, let me know.